All right, welcome to the report for December the 10th. We are on the doorstep of week 15. Can't believe we're 3/4 of the way through the season now. That means the storylines are shifting towards playoffs and coaching searches and all of that stuff. We want to dive into all of that with you. As always, we will have more answers to more of your questions a little later in the day on the mmqb.com with our print mailbag. But as always, we're going to answer your questions here as well. Get to 3 of them on the video mailbag. The first question is coming from Logan France. That's at Living Like Logan. Do you trust any team in the AFC right now? And it's just interesting to look at the playoff picture. I have it in front of me. The Broncos are the number 1 seed at 11-2. The Patriots are the number 2 seed at 11-2. 2 games back, you've got the Jaguars at number 3. And then the Steelers, believe it or not, are now the 4th seed as the AFC North leader. I don't think any of those 4 teams would have been considered the favorites to win their divisions coming into the season. I think coming into the season, you would have said Buffalo, who's still in it. You would have said Baltimore, who's still in it. You would have said Houston, who's still in it. You would have said Kansas City, who is still in it, like struggling a little bit, but still in it. And all 4 of those teams, what's really interesting about it is those 4 teams could enter the playoffs as wild cards, which means we could have some home underdogs there over the first weekend of the playoffs. But as for who I trust in the AFC right now, I think the most trustworthy team at this point, the team that you could say, okay, like there is something to work with here based on how they played this year, based on their history, would probably be the Buffalo Bills. They're 9-4 now, and 3 of their last 4 games, they have completely dominated the second half of games, showing an ability to put their foot on the gas and blow teams out when they need to blow them out. They have who I regard right now as the best player on the planet in Josh Allen. They've got a coaching staff that's been there before. There's a lot of youth on that team. This is not a window closing situation for Buffalo. This is whether or not their young players are good enough. The guys they just signed up, your Terrell Bernards, your Greg Rousseaus, your Christian Benfords, your James Cooks, your Khalil Shakirs. It's now their time to step up and step forward and become factors in the playoffs. So the Buffalo Bills are probably the team that you can trust the most that just won't be a playoff flameout. I think the next team I'd put in that category is probably the Denver Broncos. The reason why, I just look at them and I say, okay, head coach Sean Payton, you've got a quarterback who has performed well in tight, close games, and he hasn't been perfect. I don't know that you'd fear him for 4 quarters, but certainly I think based on what he's done, you fear him in the 4th quarter. They've got a defense that will travel. They've got a distinct home field advantage when they are at home. There are a lot of things that play in the playoffs that the Broncos have. And so I think Buffalo and Denver are 2 teams that you can trust. I also wouldn't expect New England to completely fall off when they get in a playoff setting. There are a lot of players in that locker room that don't have playoff experience, but I think Mike Vrabel is going to have that team ready to go. What it does add up to is a wide-ass open AFC, and I think a really interesting playoff bracket when we get there. And I think we're going to be looking at it like going in and saying, like, could 5 or 6 of these teams potentially make it to Santa Clara? In the end, I think I'm going to stick with my pick, which my pick at the beginning of the year was Bills Rams. I believe you'd have to look this up, but I believe I stuck with that pick in midseason. So Bills Rams would be my Super Bowl. So I picked Buffalo to get there. Again, that's the team I trust the most right now to perform when it matters most. But this is wide open, and there is not a team sitting out there without flaws right now, which I think will make it really fun when we get to January. And question number 2, this is coming from Shedrick Carter at Shedrick Carter 2. What are you hearing regarding Atlanta and Morris? Do you think they make a change at the end of the year? I think it's important to look at the context of the situation, Shedrick, and I think that starts with a coach and general manager who are in 2 different positions. For Terry Fontenot, the general manager, he's now been there 5 years. This is his 2nd head coach. For Raheem Morris, this is his 2nd year. And when he came in, he wasn't inheriting a situation where you were hitting the reset button and starting over. He was sort of jumping onto a moving train, and a team that they felt like was relatively close to actually winning, and a team that had been really competitive under Arthur Smith. The big hole was at the quarterback position. So in the first offseason together, Morris and Fontenot went over the top to try to fix the quarterback problem. They signed Kirk Cousins in free agency, and then they spent the 8th overall pick, even with the defensive needs that they had, on Michael Penix Jr. that first year, of course. Cousins winds up getting banged up, and coming off the Achilles wasn't quite the same to begin with. They wind up going to Penix at the end of the year. They hold on to Cousins this year. They're all in with Penix. Now Penix is hurt, has another torn ACL. He had the injury problem in college, and Cousins is back in the lineup. Meanwhile, the team hasn't played very well. They started 3-2. They've now lost 7 of 8, and they have a standalone game coming up tomorrow night that is in Tampa against a Buccaneers team that really needs the win. Then after that, they go to Arizona. Then they have the Rams and Saints to close out the schedule, and that's thorny too because you have a standalone game. Then you have a game against a team that's struggling just like you are, so you can't afford to lose that one. Then you're playing maybe the best team in the league in the Rams, and then you close it out with a Saints team that represents your only win during that 1-7 stretch. And so I think that there's still a lot to be written here. There's still a chance that they could bounce back and rebound and have some momentum going into the offseason. But if it doesn't go well down the stretch, there are a lot of people that are expecting Arthur Blank to go in and reset his organization from a football standpoint and start over on that side of the building. Whether or not it happens again, that remains to be seen. But owners don't like being embarrassed. And if the Thursday night game doesn't go well, that could really turn the temperature up on that situation. And then if you lose in Arizona the next week, now all of a sudden this thing gets really hot. If you can go into Tampa and win, and then you beat Arizona, and now all of a sudden you're 6-9, things look a little bit different. So again, I think seats are hot in Atlanta, but there's still a month for Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot and the crew there to resolve things. And I don't think it helps that we're still not sure that they have an answer at the quarterback position after everything that they did during the 2024 offseason to resolve it. Question number 3, this is from Cody Bug. That's at You Betcha Dak. Nick Emanwari, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Nick Emanwari, of course, a second-round pick of the Seattle Seahawks. An absolute tank of a safety. Lots of comparisons. Of course, they're being in Seattle to Cam Chancellor. With Mike McDonald's background in Baltimore, some people have looked at him as Kyle Hamilton. He is used similar to how Mike McDonald was using Kyle Hamilton at times in Baltimore as sort of a movable piece on the defense. And he's been incredibly valuable, somebody who can help you disguise because of the amount of different things that he's capable of doing. Obviously, a super athlete, somebody that they actually thought highly enough of to consider drafting 18th overall. Now, the Seahawks wound up taking Gray Zabel there with the 18th overall pick, but they wind up getting Nick Emanwari at the top of the second round with the 35th pick. And they have shown how much they like him by creating a real role for him right away. And I do think that he deserves real consideration. I would have him second right now. Carson Schlesinger of the Browns, I think, has been the best defensive rookie in all of football. You can look at the numbers: 119 tackles, 10 tackles for losses, 6 quarterback hits, 2 interceptions, and a sack and a half. So just from a numbers perspective, an impact perspective, Carson Schlesinger has been the nerve center for one of the best defenses in all of football. And while Emanwari, I think, has been a very, very valuable piece, I'm not sure he's been a sort of heart and soul player, and he can grow into this, but maybe he hasn't been quite the heart and soul player yet that Carson Schlesinger has been for the Browns. But Emanwari, by the numbers, has had a great year himself: 53 tackles, 9 passes defense, a sack and a half. Again, that sort of illustrates how they're able to use him in so many different ways. And he's going to be a really important piece for the Seahawks going forward. Another one of those building blocks on a team that's got an absolute ton of really promising young pieces on a 10-3 outfit that I think right now might be playing the second best football of anyone in the league, maybe right behind the Rams. Appreciate you guys coming out. As always, you can leave more questions down below here on the YouTube page. You can also get to me on my social media at Albert Breer on Twitter, at Albert R. Breer on Facebook, at Albert_Breer on Instagram. We have one more coming for you this week. We'll see you on Friday morning to preview the weekend of Week 15.